Conditions May Apply by CinnamonPinecones. Read by Distracted by Books. Chapter 23. All right. Well, I guess this is just my life now. So, what do you think we should do, Aizawa? You've seen them up close. Are they really a kid? Tsukashi asked. Now that was the million-dollar question. Ivy seemed confident. Their skills were nothing to scoff at, but Shota couldn't stop thinking about how small they were, and those big round eyes screamed that they were a child. But people have all kinds of quirks and mutations to look all kinds of ways nowadays. You really can't assume anything with certainty. I don't know. I didn't get to actually see them take that guy down, but they did. Maybe they used a quirk. But the way they were throwing themselves around the city is something that took me years to master. So there are 4 options. 1. They had a quirk to help them do that, and they are a child who somehow used an agility quirk to take down a 300-pound or plus pound man. Number 2. They have some other quirk and use that to take down the guy, and they are just throwing themselves around rooftops without the assistance of a quirk as a child. Number 3, they have some type of quirk that helped them do both those things as a child. Or 4, they aren't a child at all, and we have no idea what their quirk is. I really hope it's the 4th option. So do I, Tsukashi. So do I. Can you keep an eye on them until we can say it's option 4 with a little more certainty? The detective asked with a grimace. Shota just stared at him with tired eyes for a moment before speaking. Yeah, fine. He paused and thought before adding, give them my number and tell them to text me a meeting location. I don't want to spend another 3 patrols wandering around looking for them. So it's a problem when I'm on texting terms with a potentially prepubescent vigilante, but it's fine when you are, Tsukashi said in a mocking tone, already pulling out his phone and sending the message. Again, Shota just stared at him with a tired and unamused expression. Yeah, whatever. I sent the message. You can go. Let me know if they reach out, Tsukashi replied with an eye roll. Friday afternoon found Izuku trying to saw through a metal door with a handsaw. He really wanted to install a cat door, but he'd been at this for half an hour, and he'd gotten about an inch into the cut. His flimsy little coping saw was liable to break before he finished this. He really needed a jigsaw or even a reciprocating saw to get through this because this dinky little coping saw literally wasn't going to cut it. He knows he's seen a lot of power tools around Dagobah, but he was a little too afraid to mess with those. Shocking himself on circuitry was one thing, but cutting his fingers off because he didn't know how to use a tool properly was something he didn't want to tempt. He'd do it for DJ, though. He was just about to head to the beach to poke around for a while before patrol when his phone vibrated in his pocket. The detective was the only one who had his number. What the hell was he texting him on a Friday afternoon for? Narc. Number. Eraser wanted to pass on his number. Said he wanted to meet up with you for patrol again. What the hell? He just gave him Eraser's number? His life was so freaking weird. Why did Eraser want to patrol with him again? He left him to deal with that whole mess in the alley last night, and Izuku's not sure what partner patrol etiquette is, but he's sure that was not it. Izuku took a minute to think through last night, trying to figure out why Eraser would give him his number so they could patrol together. Oh. Yeah, he said he was sent here because Suka thinks he's a kid, which, to be fair, he is, but he doesn't need Eraserhead to be assigned babysitting duty. Whatever. He's not going to pass up the opportunity to study Eraserhead in action because of his pride. Ivy. Papa Suka says you're my new babysitter. Eraserhead. Somehow I doubt he said that. Ivy, I presume. Ivy. Yes, I do appreciate the concern, Eraser, but I don't need a chaperone. However, I do think that you need one. Meet me same place, same time tonight. Okay, maybe he'd let his pride get the better of him a little bit. It wasn't entirely a lie. He still didn't fully trust Eraser to follow the rules he set out, and he did want to keep an eye on him, but he definitely didn't need a chaperone, especially not from Izuku. Right. Well, looks like he's patrolling with Eraser again tonight. That's a normal, fun, fine thing that he isn't freaking out about at all. He continued on his way to Dagobah to waste the rest of daylight looking for an electric saw of any kind. He still had a good 4 hours until nightfall when he had to meet Eraser in Uptown, so hopefully he'd get lucky in that time and find a perfectly functional reciprocating saw sitting atop a very structurally sound pile of trash. Yeah, he wasn't holding out too much hope for that. When Ivy made his way to the rooftop he told his racer to meet him at, he was already sitting on the ledge waiting for him. Drinking a juice box? Um, okay. It's not like adults weren't allowed to drink juice boxes, but this definitely isn't what he expected to see when he made his way up here. Hey, Eraser, I thought I was supposed to be the kid here. Why are you the one drinking the juice box? Ivy taunted. Not a juice box. Nutrient packet, he replied after slurping down the rest of it in one go. Mm-hmm. A strawberry kiwi flavored nutrient packet, not a juice box. Got it. My apologies. They're good, and I'm a busy man. He fished another one out of one of his pockets and tossed it to Ivy. Don't knock it till you try it. Ivy eyed him suspiciously. Did he think he was just gonna take his mask off and eat it in front of him? It was still sealed, and Izuku doubted Eraser was trying to roofie him or something, but there was no way in hell he was going to take his mask off, so they raised their eyebrow at him and pocketed the packet. I'll be sure to report back on that, Eraser. Uh, thanks, they supplied awkwardly. Mm-hmm. Where are we heading tonight? He responded, the perfect picture of nonchalance. What was his angle? He was just pretending like this was a completely normal meetup, like they'd been doing this for years. Was he trying to get them to let down their guard? Because it was having the opposite effect entirely. Ivy simply shrugged in response. What do you mean? Shrugs. Where do you usually go? He was clearly fishing for more information, trying to get their patrol routes. What the hell was he after? If he were going to bring him in, he could have done it 1,000 times by now, but he hadn't. What's your angle, Eraser? You're clearly trying to gather information on me, but you're not bringing me in. What gives? They replied with an accusatory tone. I'm not trying to fool you, Ivy. Tsukashi and I are worried. You're too young to know the trouble you're putting yourself in here. I'm just keeping an eye out. If and when I decide you know what you're doing, I'll leave you alone. The city has the police and local hero agencies steer clear of here for one reason or another, but I work a little more independently, so I can patrol where I want, and this place clearly needs it. So if you'll let me, I'd like to help. He didn't look like he was lying. He gave no clear tells, but the man hardly emoted at all, so Ivy wasn't sure what kind of tell they'd be looking for to begin with. Whatever. They didn't have a set patrol route for this exact reason, so they didn't have anything to hide. I don't have any set routes. Makes me too easy to find. They paused after adding, pick a number between 1 and 20. They forgot to roll their die before they left for Dagobah to decide the night's patrol, but Eraser had no clue what the numbers correlated to, so asking him should give a sufficiently random number. 17? Eraser responded, sounding confused at the apparent change in subject. Then we are headed northeast of here tonight. Ivy responded, turning on their heel and making their way in that direction. And so on they went. Given that it was Friday, it was a lot more active tonight than last night. They intervened in one drunken brawl, a mugging, and some guy jeering and following a woman around, all before they even made it to whatever Ivy deemed Sector 17. It wasn't the best showcase of Ivy's fighting prowess, but they were fast. Very fast. That seemed to be the cornerstone of their fighting style. They were too quick and slippery for most people to land a hit on them, which was a very helpful skill to have, but it wouldn't save them if they were backed into a corner. They relied heavily on the element of surprise and quick takedowns, like Shota tended to, but they couldn't rely on that forever. They couldn't be a one-trick pony. He'd have to gather more data. When they finally reached the area Ivy was leading them to, they had a moment of silence. Nothing was happening yet, but Ivy was studying the streets intensely, not letting their guard down. It seemed as good a time to ask a question as he was going to get. How'd you learn to fight, kid? Ivy glared at him for the nickname, but answered regardless. Necessity, they stated bluntly. Well, that didn't ease his concerns, but it did make a bit of sense if they grew up in the area. Not everyone around here can fight like that. You telling me you learned how to do all that on your own? You didn't have a teacher or a mentor or something? Oh, no, Eraser. I assure you, necessity is a very efficient teacher. Okay, gentle questioning clearly wasn't going to get him anywhere. You get yourself into enough trouble that it was a necessity that you know how to take down a 300-pound mountain of a man with a gun? He prodded. Yes and no. They paused before continuing, as if unsure they should share the next bit. I've always been a target, and that taught me how to evade. I was sick of evading, so I learned how to fight. They stated it like it was the most obvious thing in the world, and not a highly concerning bit of information. And if I know how to fight, then I can help those who don't. What do you mean you've always been a target? Sorry, Eraser. You don't have the option of unlocking my tragic backstory yet, they quipped before going back to studying the streets below. Try again once you've leveled up. The rest of the night went by without much fanfare. In most of the incidents, they intervened in the offenders if the offenders were inebriated to some degree and didn't put up much of a fight. Ivy would drop down and either disarm or knock out their target before they even knew what happened. It was becoming more and more apparent that Ivy had survived this long because they didn't let themselves get into something they couldn't get out of. They always looked to Eraser before engaging with a group of 3 or more opponents. It was smart for them to not get involved with something they couldn't handle, but that wouldn't save them forever. Things don't always go to plan, and Shota wasn't sure that Ivy would be able to hold their own if a fight were drawn out, or they were cornered, or they were too outnumbered, or they didn't have the element of surprise. That was a lot of blind spots to have. Ivy was very good at what they did, but they needed to be able to do more if they were going to keep themselves safe in the long term, especially with them making an enemy out of the local gang. It was only a matter of time before that gang came to the same realization that he did and went after Ivy as a group. The night was winding down, and it looked as though Ivy was getting ready to call it. Well, it was now, or they'd have to wait until next time, and Shota didn't think they were going to take this well, so he figured it would be best to give them some time to cool off. It'd be better to get it over with now. You rely too heavily on the element of surprise, Ivy. As expected, they shot him a dirty look for the comment, but they didn't argue. You're very good with stealth, sneak attacks, and evasion, but you won't always have that on your side. If someone spots you first, or you're cornered, stealth and speed won't help you. They aren't infallible, he continued. Nothing's infallible, Eraser, they said, clearly getting irritated with the unprompted critiques. True, but it doesn't hurt to have more than one trick up your sleeve, he countered. Well, what the hell am I supposed to do then? Just go around and announce my presence beforehand and hope I make it through enough fights to learn some new tricks? They quipped back. They were definitely fed up now. No, that would be stupid. I could teach you. Ivy paused at that. They looked less angry and more suspicious, but they didn't respond. I've got a day job teaching brats how to fight, and I've seen more potential in you than I have in anyone for the past 6 years I've been teaching. I don't want to stand around and let someone take you down because you've got a few blind spots. It'd be a waste of potential, he said truthfully. Ivy looked at him dumbstruck. After an uncomfortable moment of that, Shota snapped his fingers in front of their face a few times. Kid? They shook their head and blinked away the fog that had set over their expression. Yeah, sorry. Okay, they finally replied. He'd never heard them sound or look so unsure of themselves. Interesting. He filed that bit of information away. The look only lasted for a moment before they returned to normal. I see you carry around a knife, and you know how to disarm someone, but I've never seen you use it. Do you know how? Yes, to a degree. I don't have much practice because I try not to resort to filleting people if I don't have to, Eraser. They snarked back. I'll bring some blunted blades next time and we can spar just to see where you're at. You're good with mobility and hand to hand, but you don't have any ranged defense or offense. Have you ever tried throwing knives? No, I have not, they said with a raised eyebrow. Right. Well, we can try those too. They'd suit your current style well. Can I see your baton? They handed it over with a healthy amount of uncertainty. Getting a closer look at it, Shota realized, this is a flashlight, kid. Yeah, what of it? They snipped back with their arms crossed over their chests defensively. Where did you even get this? It looks like it was made to be a baton as well. Is this actual support gear? Found it on the beach. Figured it washed up from the Coast Guard or something. Finders keepers, though. Give it back. They were starting to get antsy from being unarmed. They only trusted him about as far as they could throw him, which was probably further than the average person their size, but it still wasn't very far. Hopefully he could change that. He meant what he said. Ivy had a lot of potential, and they were doing a lot of good around here. And Shota didn't want to see another young hero meet an untimely end because of one stupid mistake. He handed the flashlight back. Meet in the same spot tomorrow a few hours early, and we can go through a few drills just to see where you're at, okay? Yeah, okay. Thanks. Ivy responded, some of their sheepishness from before seeping into their tone. They did the same thing when he'd given them the nutrient pouch and praised them on their potential. They didn't seem to know how to handle kindness directed at them. That was definitely another thing to add to the growing pile of concerns Ivy had brought up. With a nod, they made their way off the roof, going wherever it is they went after patrol. Shota could only hope it was home and not some dirty alleyway. Oh, Kami, oh, Kami, oh, Kami, oh, Kami, oh, Kami. Eraserhead just offered to teach him how to fight. The Eraserhead just told him he had more potential than anyone he'd taught in the last 6 years. The Eraserhead just roasted him on his inability to hold up in a fight without the element of surprise. The Eraserhead just offered to spar with him and teach him how to use throwing knives. What the hell? What the hell? What the hell? What the hell? He was so in his head he didn't realize he was home until DJ touched down on the dumpster in front of him, knocking him out of his fanboy panic with her customary dumpster jump scare. DJ, you are not going to believe what just happened. End of chapter.